What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, and we continue to talk about training camp. And, I've been talking about certain players, but really I've been talking about this culture. And I think more people are picking up on the fact that it doesn't seem like the Jets are being shy, quite frankly, about throwing shade to the former regime, saying that we like the way the whole operation is run better. Things are more sensible now. The accountability is actually there. The expectations are actually there. And they're not apologizing for it. People are actually talking their truth about the comparisons between what it was like being at a Robert Saleh training camp and what it is like being at an Aaron Glenn training camp. And I actually think that is reason for optimism here for a turnaround with the green and white. The standard is absolutely clear. You hear it from everybody, and it looks like some of these young kickers could not meet the standard, right? We talked about Caden Davis. We talked about the thicker kicker, right? And I thought it was interesting after moving on from Greg Zuerlein, we brought in youth, we brought in competition. But if you are going to be a team that thrives in close games, in one-score games, we've talked about the turnovers, how we want to address that. We've talked about the penalties, how we want to address that. And you just can't have any liability in the kicking game. And so the Jets have gone out and signed veteran place kicker and former Jet Nick Folk. Nick Folk looks like he is going to come back to the Jets. I mean, last year, the last 2 years, Nick Folk actually led the league in field goal percentage. It's amazing that he was just out there with 96.7 and 95.5% accuracy in his field goals. Remember, he was with the Jets from 2010 to 2016. He now becomes the second player on the Jets roster that's over the age of 30. Remember, Tyrod Taylor, the backup quarterback, was really the only one. But now still no starting kind of skill position or anything like that. There's still youth is still reigning supreme. You see the stats for Nick Folk, right? When 21 to 22 last year, all of his extra points were made, and he was able to convert from deep, 11 of 12 from 50 plus. He was actually the Jets kicker the last time we were in the playoffs, so maybe it's a bit of good juju. I think what it is showing that we can't take a chance on field goal kicking if we expect to be a team that is going to win the close games, right? And so I think it is a smart move. I think it is great to have this kind of youth culture, but place kicker, maybe you need some veteran experience there. So we are bringing back Nick Folk to be our kicker this year. Another thing I want to talk about is, once again, as it relates to one of the leaders on this team, one of the guys who got a monster extension just before training camp, and that is Garrett Wilson, right? He is now another player talking about the standard, talking about how it feels different here at Jets camp. It is absolutely clear that this culture shift is happening. It's happening in so many different ways. And when the leaders of the team are talking about it, remember, Garrett Wilson was previously talking about that no block, no rock, right? Being expected to do that sort of thing, right? We talk about how they're tackling in drills. There is officials at camp, right? So this continues with a quote from Garrett Wilson. Listen to what he had to say. He goes, "The competitiveness, not just talking about being competitive. You've got to train that way. It's got to feel like that at practice. It's got to feel like if you lose, it sucks at practice. It can't just be, oh, we'll turn it on when the game comes. The way we're practicing, the intensity, the stakes feel higher. It feels like you won the drill when you won it. It feels like you lost the drill when you lost it." That's something I love to be a part of. And throughout the first couple of months, I've seen it here for sure. And that's, again, him veiled shots that was not in place in the former regime. But I think it's great when your leaders are talking about, this is the kind of thing I want. We talked about kind of rookies coming in being like, I want to be taught, right? People in the secondary are coming in saying it's an honor to be kind of learning under Aaron Glenn. The kind of standard is still there. And I got to tell you something, Garrett Wilson should probably reach any standard. Listen to what Aaron Glenn had to say about kind of basically what makes Garrett Wilson such a top flight wide receiver. He goes, he's very elusive. He's a very smart player who understands man zone. He understands leverage and how to change his speed during the route. There are so many things about him that make him a good receiver. He's very patient. I can go on and all about the traits he has. But him as a person, he's tough, he's agile, and again, he has all the qualities you would want in a wide receiver. So it's not only his skill set, right? But again, alluding to the toughness, alluding to the football IQ as well. These are the traits that Aaron Glenn wants in all of his players, right? And obviously, G5 agreed to that monster extension, that 4-year, $130 million extension right before training camp. And I think he deserves it, right? We talk about guys that have done as well as him in his first couple of seasons. There's only 4 other guys who have had their first 3 seasons include at least 80 grabs and at least 1,000 yards. And we're talking about names like Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, right? So he is truly an elite company, and we expect him to take even another step forward here this year for the green and white now that he got paid. Now, the other thing, again, going back to the culture, I've said that it was intentional to get all these guys in their 20s who had flashed, right? Who have a chip on their shoulder, who can benefit from the coaching. But one guy who I think it was interesting to also hear from about what is happening inside that building was, until Nick Folk got signed, right, the elder statesman there. And that's backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who has been in this league for a long time, has been in a number of different spots. And I thought it was really interesting that Tyrod was also talking about, from experience, what he is seeing in Aaron Glenn and talking about the change in Jets culture. Listen to what Tyrod had to say. He goes, when you're shifting culture and starting fresh, there's a certain quality that you have to have in a head coach, and I think Aaron Glenn has them all. He gets respect from everyone in that locker room just by the way he presents himself. His message to the team has been consistent from day one. He's a straight shooter. He gets it from a player side. He knows how to take care of us, and he requires us to work well too. The conversation is always transparent, and as a player, you respect that. You know what you're getting when you walk in the building, and it doesn't just stop there. It bleeds through the rest of the coaching staff. It's one message versus hearing multiple. I think that just echoes a lot of the stuff we've been hearing literally at every single turn, from rookies, from veterans, to other coaches, to the front office, to even people outside of the organization talking about Aaron Glenn, guys like Dan Campbell and others that were in Detroit, talking about what he has, what his kind of standard, his consistency, the idea that players respect him because he's walked the walk, but that he holds that standard. And I think hearing it from, the elder statesman in the room, the veteran there, right? And how we are doing this in so many different ways, whether it's the officials, whether it's the tackling drill, whether it's identifying specific teaching techniques, identifying specific things that guys have to work on, but then still having the confidence in people's potential. This is the leadership that it is required to turn this thing around. So that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. The idea that we've got our place kicker, the idea that some of these leaders are continuing to talk about what we are building here with the green and white for 2025 and beyond under Aaron Glenn. But I also want to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you to everybody who's subscribing to the channel, watching, telling a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. And thanks for the comments out there, whether it's on the videos or out there on social media, right? At Spittin' Speeds on X, Twitter. You could always find me. Remember, I am also the host of the FTN Fantasy Show on SiriusXM Channel 87, the Fantasy Channel. We are getting into August very soon, and that is fantasy football season. I'm in an expert industry draft later on this week, so feel free to also hit me up with those kind of questions as well. But let's see what people are saying. We got Old Dave 1000. Big shout out to him, a frequent commenter on the channel. He says, Peyton Page, the undrafted free agent out of Clemson, is making people see him. His first step has been elite, and he is flashing solid fundamentals. He put in a serious off-season program getting tutored and has got a real shot to make the team. We'll continue to talk about kind of what that depth chart looks like, but Peyton Page is a name and a guy who has been flashing, so keep out the lookout for him. Ed 1956K says, I see this year's Jets as being similar to the 22 Lions. They may not make the playoffs, but at the end of the season, everyone will be saying, look out for the Jets next year. And that's what I talk about, kind of managing expectations, right? I've said it a bunch. I don't think they're going to win 12, 13 games, but I think they're going to be a team that is definitely gelling, definitely getting better as the season goes along. And quite frankly, I agree with Ed here that they'll be one of these hot teams next offseason as the arrow continues to point up. And if that happens, if Justin Fields has a good season, this all starts to come together under Aaron Glenn's leadership, I would consider that a winning season for us as the kind of arrow continues to point up and we continue to move forward. Sovereign Paradox out there in the comments also says, like your content, do your thing, brother, but also has a tip for me to put a Jets helmet in the background over here. So I want you to see, I got my Jets beads over there. I got my Jets voodoo doll over there, my Jets stuffed animal. But it's true, I'm as a native New Yorker, I am the somewhat unusual Jets Yankees combination. I know a lot of Jets, Mets, a lot of Giants, Yankees, but I am, listen, like I said, my grandparents had season tickets all the way back to Shea Stadium with Joe Willie Namath, so I've always been a Jets fan. I've also always been a Yankees fan. As a Puerto Rican growing up in the Bronx, right, in the 80s, I was a Yankees fan in the era of Ricky Henderson, Don Mattingly, Dave Winfield, that sort of thing. But definitely bleed green when it comes to football. My entire family is Jets fans, and we've been at this for decades and decades and decades. Like I said, all the way back to Shea Stadium. But I appreciate the comments as always. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. We will be back throughout training camp every day, giving you the real. You know how to find me. So this is another edition of Jets Latest. We'll be back soon. But for this one, we out of here. Peace.